right. Coming live from Snowmaggedon and Windmaggedon.
That's right. Didn't even ask you about that. You're like snowed in. You like need me to like drone you some ramen noodles or anything, or are you all set up there?
No, dude. I would consider myself a half prepper.
Is that like survive? You can survive for 2 weeks and then it's done.
Yeah, I got 2 weeks covered easy.
Oh, you're good then. Yeah, you're good then. You're solid. You guys, you see, 15 inches of snow.
Oh, we're over 20.
What?
Yeah, we got nailed 2 days in a row. I did the whole driveway and then I went out the next day and it was up to my knees again. I mean, a lot of it's drifting, but boy, it was intense in the wind, and a friend came up and of course he got stuck in a ditch and we had to do the Wisconsin thing, guys, and find a guy with a truck and we pulled him out. It's all good. It's sunny today.
A lot of changing of the weather. I mean, hell, we left Kansas to head down to Overland Park, and it was like perfectly like 70, 75. It was warm, and it got like real warm. Saturday, Sunday ended up being like, I think low 80s on race day. And then with like the huge front that came in, that we'll talk about the race and the wind and everything here in a little bit. But so we woke up Monday morning, 31 in Dallas. Yes, it was freezing, and then made the way back home, only to find that it snowed the day before. Not nearly. I mean, it was pretty much gone by the time that we got back, but it was 12 degrees. And then, you know what Thursday is going to be? 86. And then over the weekend, it's going to hit almost 90. So what the hell? I mean, it's just, but we say it every year, that's the spring, right? Everyone jokes about like how crazy the weather is, but I think it is especially true in the Midwest. It's like, hey, if you don't like the weather, stick around. And we're glad you stuck around. Today is March 17th, the year 2026. Welcome over, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast. This is episode 912.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about this weather. It's been really weird. The wind itself is, I mean, I know you guys had a lot of wind down there, but we got all that snow, and then we had the next day like 50-mile-an-hour winds. We're like, okay.
Yeah. Just when you think it's over. Listen, we get it every March, right? Like we get like the little teaser of the week or two of like nice weather. Like, we probably got it past us. And then it's like, no, we're going to drop you down again and we're going to hammer you and make you appreciate spring and summer even more. And you know what? It's just a good reminder to not get too far ahead of ourselves. But hey, if there's ever a week to be snowed in, it's this week. Tune in, watch some March Madness, a little bit of a lull in the racing calendar. I feel like this week with spring break going on, for kids starting, pretty much in the thick of it right now. You had it last week or you're going to get it. Then you got Oceanside in a few weeks. But yeah, this last week was Dallas 74.3. They had a pretty good pro race too. I was down there. We had about 10, 12 athletes down there. Sold out race. So today I'll kind of go over just my thoughts in general over the race itself, like in how, the delivery of it from like, a participant standpoint, spectator standpoint. We'll do our, which is probably the most popular segment is I'll rate the post-race food, which Ken Hammond's always been a huge fan of. And then just talk about, my overall race. First time I've seen the finish line in quite a bit. So I'll go over kind of the race and that. But yeah, I mean, all in all, like Little Elm, it was a sold out race. There were lots of people, tons of rumors about how many first timers were out there. I can attest, like if you asked, 7 out of 10 people that you ran into in transition, they were probably doing like their first triathlon period. And like, honestly, like one of the biggest, I think the biggest thing people worried about leading into this early season race wasn't the wind or the bike or the run. And honestly, it wasn't even the heat. It was how warm is the water going to be? Because like that was like one of the things they talked about in this kind of lead up was the water temp was like in the mid 50s. I got like a thermal cap in case I needed it, and was doing some like cold plunging like the whole 2 weeks leading up to it just to like make sure that it wasn't going to be too cold. And that was like the big talking about how cold is the swim going to be? How cold is the swim going to be? Are they going to cancel because the swim is too cold? And I got to say, like I got in the water on We got there Thursday. We got in the water Friday morning with Jake and didn't just wore like, regular wetsuit and cap, goggles. It was 64 and it was perfect. I mean, I really think like that's about perfect race temp. I think some people might think that's a little bit too cold, but I get so hot in like the 70, 72 degree water temp, even though it's a wetsuit legal, like I just fry. And like, yeah, it wasn't chilly. It was like that refreshing feeling, like even in like 72 degree water, I feel like there's really nothing refreshing about it with the wetsuit on. I feel like you're hot in like 200 meters, but I swam 800 to 1,000 out and backs, and I felt like I got out and like I wasn't chilly, but I didn't feel hot or cold. So for me, it was perfect. And that kind of got me amped. But yeah, let me just give like the whole race experience, like how I thought it went, and I'll kind of go through my race and training, execution, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Do you want to start with? Are you setting it up for the swim thing right now?
I don't want to talk about just the venue. I mean, I honestly think like, and then we'll talk about we'll just like kind of hop back into like the race because the swim was obviously canceled. But I will say like the venue, it's perfect. The venue is perfect. It's 20 minutes outside of Frisco, which Frisco is like 20 minutes outside of Dallas. So it's kind of like you're still got a lot of like things nearby, plenty of hotel options. Like, I mean, there's plenty of places to stay. It's like suburbia USA. But the venue, I thought it was very cool. I guess I read like it's the largest beach in northern Texas or all of Texas. But yeah, it was a very cool venue. And I will say, like, before we kind of give like the whole recap of the race, I thought it was a very, very, very well put on race. Tons of volunteers, great organization, even with like the last minute change we'll talk about here in a minute. But great overall race. And honestly, like, yeah, early season races, you never know what you're going to get with weather and wind and temperatures and water. I could see this being one of the more popular races on the U.S. circuit, just given the time of year. In the location. But yeah, two thumbs up. I give to the race director. I thought they did a fantastic job putting on the race.
Wow, man.
I'll get to.
Come on, man. You're coming out. This is like a 5-star. So we just wrap it up.
I know we shouldn't wrap it because I'll go into like major details here in a minute. And the only down. I'll just get it out of the way.
All right, let's go. I was gonna say
the post race food was the worst I've ever experienced. They had pre-packaged styrofoam like lunch boxes, and you got to pick between like the tiniest slider you've ever seen in your entire life, and you got a side of mac and cheese. And you're probably thinking, oh, dude, what's a small slider and a mac and cheese? Like, what's there to bitch about? The mac and cheese was in like a dressing ramekin. Like plastic, like there was like 7 noodles in there, and you got a bag of chips. Ooh. And then they fucking marked your wristband to make sure you didn't come back in through another time. It was weak sauce, dude. I'm like, dude, if you're gonna be in Texas and you're gonna tout like we got barbecue, we got all this food, ooh, and then you're gonna hold out on the yeah, dude. I thought it was like really weak sauce. And every person I talked to, before I even got my food, I sat down with Chris Linehan and Jake, and they were like, don't get excited about the food. This is all we got. I'm like looking at it, and it's like they were rationing for, Snowmaggedon themselves. Yeah, the post-race food was completely weak sauce. Wow. Never seen a smaller serving size of mac and cheese in my entire life. Like, I'm not kidding. The plastic ramekin is like if you go to a restaurant and order a salad, and you're like, hey, I want to take a little bit of this home. Can I get a little side of ranch? That's the size ramekin they give you. And they added like 2 pickles. Like we're going to be confusing them for Chick-fil-A. They had like 2 pickles on the side, and then you got to pick like your bag of chips and a drink. Yeah. Overall,
what was it, like a burger or something? Slider?
It wasn't even let's not call it a burger. If we're going to call it we're not calling it a burger. But I mean, that
was the meat.
It was like,
yeah, barbecue's got to come back next year.
It was like a barbecue slider, but there wasn't even enough barbecue on there.
Oh,
it was a tiny it was like like those King like Hawaiian rolls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the size of it.
Okay. Well, I mean, it wasn't like a pile it on out of a big tray of barbecue kind of thing.
No, it was insanely
that's the way to go.
disappointing. Yeah, exactly. It just either do that or just give us all pizza. One of the two. Anyway, back to the beginning. Where do you want me to start? Because I'll just kind of roll through. Because I'll be all over the place. Where do you?
Well, I mean, you've already mentioned.
Why don't you just lead me down the path today?
Yeah, I just you've already mentioned that the swim was canceled. That's no secret, and I've been dying to ask if did you go to a Y and get it in?
I didn't go to the. Honestly, like that was the first thing I thought of. Like, I honestly had no like even thought that the swim would be canceled. The water was perfect Friday and Saturday. I mean, perfect. Couldn't have asked for better water conditions. So yeah, we listen. We all knew the wind was going to be strong. I knew that. Like that was no question. So we get into transition, and even like, I don't know, Saturday night, like going out to eat, you could tell like the wind had picked up a tremendous amount. Like I lost my hat on the walk to dinner with Hayden. Like it was gusting. You're like, man, like, but I never thought, honestly, my thought was they're going to shorten the bike. Like with all these first timers out there, they're going to shorten the bike. Because it was calling for 20 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts from 30 to 50. And you're thinking like, good God, like all these first timers, early season race, people probably haven't been training outside a lot. I'm like, maybe the bike will be shortened. But never in a million years did I think they'd cancel a swim. So we roll up race morning, it's pitch black. And so like you can't see anything, right? And I'm setting up my stuff, and Jake Lillian, one of our athletes who we hung out all weekend, and he had an amazing race. So kudos to him. He kind of came over, he's like, hey, you want the good news or the good news? And I was like, I mean, I'll take both, right? It's a race morning. Like you're looking to get some any good news you can. He's like, guy in the rack next to me just heard that they're probably going to shorten the swim to 400 meters and change the direction. And in my head, I'm like, where's the good news?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Because this is not.
I know, because you just told me how you were feeling about the swim,
dude, it
and
was perfect.
it's taking away your secret weapon, man.
And I told you before, leading into this, that this is probably the best swim shape I've ever been in. I mean, I've been hitting the pool hard, which is something I've completely neglected the last 5 years when I would, knock out some training for a race. I honestly, like I was prepared to be in like the 28-30 range. I did a 3K swim race week. Like I nailed my taper, but I did a hard like 3K on the Monday. So like last Monday at 113. And so I was feeling great. So yeah, so I was in Jake, if you're listening, I'm still waiting for the good. Because I was like, where is the good in this? Maybe it was that they weren't going to cancel it outright. So I got bummed, right? But I was like, hey, all right, it's still going to swim. It's a big deal. Like, it's no whatever. Like it is what it is, right? You tell your athletes this, and I'm trying to like switch off of coach mode. And I'm like, all right, it is what it is. You got to deal with what's given to you. A swim is still a swim.
Were you ditching the wetsuit at that moment?
What's that?
Were you ditching the wetsuit at 400?
No. It's funny. That's the first thing I said was, well, then I don't even know if I'm going to wear a wetsuit. I mean, what's the point for 400 meters? Really, there's zero. Because if you knew they were going to change it, you knew they were going to change it to be an advantageous swim. Mm-hmm. And I think if you watch the pros like 350, like it was so fast because they went with the current. You're like, what's the point? They're going to be out of the water. 400 meter swim. I'd have been out of the water in well under 6 minutes, maybe even like 5:30. So like, what's the point, right? It's just something else to hassle with. And so like we went back to the car, we still had our wetsuits, we went back to the car to actually drop some stuff off, came back, was entering transition, and this really nice lady with her kids was like, hey, because we had just left our phones in the car. So we didn't know anything. Mm-hmm. Like for all I knew, that was just a rumor. And there was still going to be, it was all good. Because there were no announcement had been made. We're like an hour before race start. And so I'm putting the phone up, so we're not going to get notifications from Iron Track. Nobody's going to text. And then we're walking back into transition, and this lady who just kind of stopped us. Otherwise, like, hey, I don't know if you heard or not, but the swim's canceled. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, seriously? And she's like, yeah, pros will swim 350, and they're canceling. Yeah. And they're canceling the swim for the age groupers. So I was like, hey, do you mind if I look at my phone? I just wanted to figure out, like, what's the bike? Is it going to be, like, age group? Is it going to be time trial? Just, like, seed yourself? Or is it going to be by numbers? Like, how long do I have? And it's not going to start till 8. because at this point, you know, the gun's supposed to go off at 7:30 for the pros. Age group are 7:43. We're like an hour out, so like an extra 30 minutes is a pretty big deal. Like, you know, just to start, and you're probably not going to start till 8:20. I was number 619, but then you're also thinking like, all right, does my nutrition strategy change, right? Because I'm not swimming, you know, 30-minute hard, you know, so do I need to change anything? So we went back to the car and put our wetsuits back, and then walked back over. And when we made our way to the water, and I think I told you this. I get it. Like, there was no chop on the water, 0 chop.
Really?
From what I saw. Yeah, I walked to see the pros go off, 0 chop, and the chop wasn't the problem. The issue, I guess, was two things, right? And again, like, as bummed as I was, like, it's my strength. I was in great swim shape and I was ready to rip one off. I get it. I honestly get it. I don't like it, but I get it. I mean, when I say I get it, it's because I saw, you know, half to 70% of the people that were out there doing practice swim in perfectly calm water, like having to like breaststroke every 10 strokes. And apparently, like, the buoys overnight that had like cinder blocks tied to them were pushed all the way back to shore, and the kayakers couldn't stay out there. So, listen, to me, the problem was because the course was counterclockwise. Is you would have, on the way out, you would have been pushed to the right. So you probably 70% of the field couldn't have even held a straight line, and they would have never have been able to make that left turn to swim into the current. Conversely, if they'd have like swapped it, right, and gone clockwise, most of the swimmers would have got pushed inside the buoy line and never would have been able to make that right corner. And if they did, they never would have been able to make that corner back, because it was a pretty tight line around this tree line that I think people would have got stuck. And, you know, it is harder for kayaks to manage, like, because they're on top of the water. Like, apparently they just couldn't stay. They couldn't stay out there. So could 30% of the field have made it through? I think 30 is probably generous. 15 to 20% of the field had made it through, probably. The rest would have been fucked. And they just would. I mean, like, it was going. So, I mean, they even did the pros, like, they just ran them along the beach. They didn't even go out and then back. They didn't even mess with the current, and they flew. They were out of the water in like 2 seconds. So again, like, while I don't like it, it's not my favorite. I've actually, like, the last race that I've ever been a part of that had the swim canceled that I've done was like the very first triathlon I ever did coming out of treatment, which is like 13 years ago. They canceled the swim, and it was in Gulf Coast. So again, like, never saw that coming. So then,
what do you think the percentage is lately? The last few years, I feel like it's either shortened or canceled. It's like 50%.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen. I don't know. I'm not going to make this a swim rant podcast.
You're in a spicy good mood. Let's go with it.
It is. Let's go with it. It's. I mean, it is. I mean, they definitely couldn't have seen that coming. I don't think, you know. And another thing is, like, the kayak support that they probably do from like a volunteer aspect. It's not like they've got like 50 people out there for like search and rescue. You know, they've got like Joe and Sally on the local tri club committee who's never been in a kayak.
First timers all around, man.
Exactly right. So like it was a recipe for disaster. But it's like slightly frustrating. I heard a lot of people like that were excited that it was canceled, and that part just drives me bonkers. Like, there were a lot like, oh dude, someone's canceled, and I'm like, why the fuck are you excited about this?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't frustrated. I mean, I thought I handled it, you know, pretty well, considering it was like, you know, for me, like, my first race back, trying to, like, you know, get to the finish line and like kind of reinvigorate a few things and create a minimum is like worst case scenario. I'm like, fuck, the fucking swim's canceled now. It's a freaking duathlon. But no, it honestly, like, I get why, right? Because they know their audience, right? Probably not super trained for it. And then they know their volunteer safety personnel, right? And it would have been a recipe. There was no way that they could have corralled that many swimmers, especially first timers. And I mean, again, like I said, like the day before, you're looking, I'm like, dude, like you couldn't pick. I mean, it was not a cloud in the sky. The water's completely flat, even with a little bit of wind, because I swam again on Saturday morning. And, you know, like people do the normal, like open water. We would joke on open water swimming all the time when it comes to like going out and doing a workout. People do like 10 strokes and then bob. It's like, I'm going to take 10 strokes and I'm going to tread water and bob for 10 seconds. And I'm going to do it again. Like, that's not open water swimming. That's not, and they were doing it during warm-ups.
Yeah.
Like going out there for like, I'm like, this is not going to go well for you. And then obviously like they got bailed out on Sunday. And I'm sure a lot were disappointed, like, you know, that they wanted to do their first 70.3. But you know what? You got it. You got what you asked for in the bike. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I mean, all in all, like, it was frustrating. And but again, I get it. And then after that, it's like, all right, well, now you just like find your rack. And then they did it just by number. So it was, I think, 2-3 people at a time. And they just filed you in and out. And I got to say, like, I thought it was going to take them 7 years to get people out of there, out of transition. When you think about 2,500 people, getting them out 2 by 2. But I will say, like, and I'm sure this is in the race director, like, triage guide, you know, when shit goes south. They pivoted so quick. Like, I thought it was going to take forever. I went to take a last minute leak, and they were like, hey, we're already starting the bikes out at 8 o'clock, like right on cue. I'm like, well, shit, like I remember 619. How long is it going to take them? You know, people are already standing there with their helmets on at like 8 o'clock with their cycling shoes. And, but yeah, they got everybody out, you know, but here the thing, like the thing now was, well, you know, how do you pace the bike, right? Do you put a little extra juice in it? And, you know, because you don't have to swim, you know, does your nutrition game change any, like but now you're not having like any fuel, you know, for a little bit like you would have had. So you're just kind of standing there, like kind of playing a little bit of a guessing game, not a guessing game per se. But yeah, my mentality flipped to like, all right, you know, honestly, like when I heard the swim is canceled, and this might be the wrong thing to say, but like I just said, this is just going to feel like a really long workout. Cause I don't know, like as a swimmer, like the first part of the race, like it to me, like when the gun goes off and you're running into the water, cause it would have been like a beach start. Like, which I'm a, you know, me, like Anderson Road Beach, like that's my jam. Yeah. Like now we're racing. And then it was like, you're going off 2 by 2, you know, freaking like Noah's Ark time trial, you know, with like, you know, you're not wet, you're not like hustling through transit. You know, it was a weird feeling. And so I just, you know, in my head, I'm like, all right, you know, let's just treat it like a long brick workout, you know, that probably most people do anyway.
What animal were you on the Ark?
What's that?
What animal were you getting ready to go on the Ark, the Noah's Ark?
Well, you know, by the end of the day, I felt like a fucking elephant. So I'm not sure what I was, but I felt like a zebra maybe heading out.
A zebra, right? Yeah,
but I mean, it's funny because like all week looking at the weather, I thought we were going to get headwind out. I thought we were going to get tailwind out, headwind back. And everybody kept telling me, no, we're going to get headwind out, tailwind back. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that'd be freaking awesome, right? Like I've never done a race where it's tailwind back. It's always been tailwind, headwind. And I'm like, I can't see this. I'm like, listen, I'm no like, you know, meteorologist here, but I'm pretty sure when the wind says this and the route goes north, we're getting a tailwind to start. No, we're going to get this. And you're going to go out 20 miles because the thing about the course was, it wasn't like an out and back. So like you go out 20, 22-ish and you cut across and then you start to make your way back in. So even if it was even like, you know, if it was headwind out, you're going to get 30 to 35 miles of tailwind the way the wind was supposed to. So you're thinking, dude, I might fly. And then of course we get there and we're all racked like, yeah, it's going to be tailwind out. I'm like, I fucking knew it. and like I told you guys, like I've been telling you guys all week, everybody's trying to argue with me. I'm like, it's going to be tailwind out. And so in my head, I'm like, all right, my goal for the ride was to average 205 watts. All my training had been like, let's dial this in. And so my plan was, you know, kind of the opposite, right? Like one of my better executed races was Texas 70.3 that year you were there. And I was tailwind out, headwind back. And I wanted to average 225. So I did 215 out and save my energy, 235 back, knowing I would need him for the headwind. And we come out of there, 2x2, and it was weird. Like in hindsight, I'm not going to say I'm glad it was tailwind first, because the rest of the ride was pretty awful. But with as many first timers as they had on course, on road bikes that were skittish on TT bikes, having a tailwind first, because we were so congested for people to kind of get their legs and their handling underneath them, was probably the better situation for a lot of people, because had it been headwind crosswind first, people would have been blown all over the place. Like, you could just tell. I mean, there were so many people I saw on road bikes too, and I'll talk about that later, but mad respect for them. But yeah, I was 6:19. I think Jake Leeling, who was like, I knew he was going to put some time in the bike. I thought he passed me at mile 1. I mean, he was fucking hauling. But you get out there, and I will say, like, before we talk about like the conditions and the actual like race part of it, outstanding bike course. Outside of Muncie 70.3, which I think has really, really, really good roads, I don't know that I've ridden a 70.3 with better road conditions. No chip seal, long straightaways, minimal turns. There were a few like no passing zones that were, like a minor inconvenience, but whatever. I mean, like, seriously, like the majority of the ride felt like a closed course. And in perfect roads. So I got to give it a lot of no chip seal. It was really, really good road conditions in my opinion. But you came out of transition, and you could just tell you had the tailwind. My goal, right, just because I was just trying to find the finish line and kind of get my feet under it, was like, I didn't have a bike computer. I set my wristwatch, and all I wanted to see was lap power and current power. That's it. Didn't wear a heart rate strap. Just wanted to see occasionally when I glanced down on my wrist, like, what am I pushing here? And so my goal was to just take it super easy on the way out. And dude, I was getting past like I was standing still. People were flying on this tailwind. I had no idea how fast we were going. Zero. Because every time my watch would lap, like it lapped every 5 miles, I had no idea, because I wouldn't feel it. People are just like, when I say flying by me, flying. And looking back at my splits, I think I was going like 25, 26, 27 miles an hour, and they were just hauling. So you hit mile 20, and I feel really good. Like, I will say, and I told you this again last week, like, I've never felt so comfortable in the TT position. Like, I just felt really, really, really comfortable, which hasn't always been the case, and it's kind of been like a confidence loser for me in the past, but I just felt so comfortable. You make that turn at mile 20 to kind of cut across, and that was kind of your first little taste of what the wind was going to be like. And it was like crosswindy, and then you do another check, you get back with a tailwind, and then once you hit between mile 20 to 30, I would say you went kind of even between headwind, tailwind, crosswind, and at mile 30 is when things got real. And you got a crosswind first, and dude, when I'm telling you, you're leaning so far to the right. You're like, if Mother Nature turns this on, I'm just going to topple over. I've never, even in like all our days at the lab, I've never been in a wind conditions like that. Like, I'll just tell you this: the crosswinds were so bad. When you got to like the 20 to 30 mile an hour headwinds, you were like excited, because at least it was predictable, right? Like, it's just coming at you, right? There's really no, steering, right? You just stay in it. But dude, it hit you like a ton of bricks. And I'll also say, like, I've never in my life seen that many people with disc wheels and expensive tri-bikes sitting up on their handlebars the whole time. Not in TT position, at the headwind or this crosswind. Like, zero confidence to stay upright. And it was like that the whole last 26 miles. I mean, as you could see from, like, the tracker looking at the splits, I mean, it was just, you didn't, and that's like, if you're a little search up, like, if all things are equal, if you did like 26 miles out, 26 miles back, tailwind, headwind, does it even out? And it's always no, right? If there's a headwind, like you never get it back. But yeah, my mile per hour splits were 24, 26, 19, around 17, 17, 18 for a little over 20 mile an hour. But the last 20, from mile 30, I will say, like, my pacing strategy, and I had this as like a workout for a lot of our athletes, was like a build, because I questioned my weather knowledge, but I always kind of felt it was going to be tailwind. So I just, like, some of the longer rides that our athletes do, and myself, would always include like the hardest intervals, these long sustained intervals in the back half. So like a 3-hour ride, I always had like the last 90 minutes were like 70.3 or higher power. And that's what it ended up being, was that I didn't do like 70.3 specific work for this one, where you're doing like, 4x15 or 4x20 at 70.3 watts. It was just all like long intervals at 70.3 or over 70.3 power for like the last hour and a half. It was very, very hard. And I went back and looked, and because I ended up averaging 202, so I was close to my average, and then 208 normalized. So that's it's a VI of like 1.02, so very well paced race. And I did the last 36 miles, so from mile 30 split. Mile 30. I think I looked it up, and I was like 200 and something, like, and then I passed over 100 people the last 26 miles. But just because, and I felt it, like a lot of these people that had just like flown past me, putting the pedal to the metal, with the tailwind, like I just started to recognize all these people that I was like, hey, you passed me a while ago. Hey, you passed me a while ago. Hey, you passed. Yeah. I went from, this is just on the male side, I went from 228th male to 152nd on the last 26. So I passed about 75 just dudes who had passed me on the tailwind part. And you could just tell it was just like eating, and it was, dude. It was like, it's so loud. You're telling people, your favorite, you're yelling on the left, right? Yeah. Because the crosswind is so strong that people were just having a hard time. Like, it was always blowing to the left too, the way the course was. So it was never like blowing you like off. It was like blowing you either into traffic or like into another rider. And so I just stopped saying, because people can't hear you. Like, it was so windy in like your ears from your helmet, you couldn't hear anything. And so I, like, the last 20 miles, like, I actually just decided, if I'm passing somebody, I'm going to sit up for a minute, get past them in my, on my brakes and on my hoods, just in case, right? Because even in like perfect conditions for a triathlete, if you say on your left, their first inclination is to swerve left. And so I was like, I don't want to like be taken out. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play it safe. I'm gonna sit up for a minute, say on my left when I get even, and then like just be on the ready in case they like, swerve left, or honestly, like if there was a huge gust of wind. I mean, and I will say, like, as much as it didn't feel great to like have a few extra PDs on me on the run, the heavier riders sure did appreciate a little bit heavier weight on the bike ride, because, man, I'm telling you, I saw some dudes and a lot of females. I'm like, I don't even know how you're staying on the bike right now, because it was so windy. And then everybody who did that course on a road bike, I got mad props. I mean, I gave you I don't know how you sat up in that relentless wind for 30 plus miles. But it was, and I will say, like, and then I'll shut up and you can hop in. But there was, I think every pro that was interviewed after the race said that was the windiest, toughest bike ride they've ever done. All right.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think
I don't know. To me, like, and I'm not in.
Like, I just hear this so much that I'm like, okay.
Oh, you do. I'm not even to say it was mine. I thought it was hard.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was more annoying.
Well,
than it was, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, was it easy? By no stretch. But I don't know if it's because I paced it really well. Like, again, like, I never really outfit anybody, but I'm pretty smart at pacing it. And like, I could have gone to at least 70 with the way I was feeling. I could have definitely, like, I feel like I just had more to give. And I don't know if it's because I saved my energy out of the gate with the tailwind and just kind of used it as a warm up. That's how I thought. I was like, listen, if I got a tailwind, yes, I can hammer out 20 extra watts, but I'm not going to get that much of a return. But if I'm going to push extra watts on the return and the headwind, I'm going to get it. So while it wasn't like, and it was my slowest 70.3 bike split since my very first one. But was it easy? No. But I mean, I don't know. Like it was a weird kind of challenging, but I was able to stay in aero in the headwinds, and I was able to stay aero on the crosswinds. And to me, like that made the biggest difference in the world. Yes, it was annoying. Yes, you had to kind of be careful because of how windy it was. But like I said, like once you got into the headwind, you're just like, I find it easier to push power in a headwind. I think most people do too, because you kind of have that resistance. So it kind of honestly just felt like I'm being on the trainer, because as long as you got like a head on straight, and you just like tuck your head and get down. But the roads were incredible. There weren't that many turns. And the turns came at like a long stretch where like, this is probably where I'm going to sit up and kind of like shake things out anyway. But yeah, I mean, it was like, it definitely wasn't easy, but I think being able to be aero by choice whenever I wanted to be was of huge benefit compared to, I don't doubt, for like a lot of the age groupers that didn't like their fit or didn't feel comfortable in aero, that were sitting up the whole time with these like deep dish wheels. Like I was going to go deep, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going my stock like 60 mil front and left. I'm not even gonna mess with that. And I think that was also a smart choice, that I didn't have to worry about some of the extra stuff being pushed. But yeah, it was not easy, but I definitely wouldn't say it was like the hardest ever. I mean, my hardest ever was Wisconsin still, but yeah, I mean, interesting day. And I think is another great lesson of like, on the bike, just, it's like, again, we always talk about negative splitting, but like not getting caught up in like, I think one of the best decisions I ever made was not putting miles per hour on my screen. I didn't even have as an I had one data screen. I didn't even give myself a choice. Like, cause most people have like, 4 or 5 data screens, and they can like scroll through and like, just in case you're curious, right? Like just in case you're curious. And I even thought about it like multiple times. Like when I would hit a mile marker at like mile 20, I was like, just hit the lap button. Because then you can do a little bit of math, and because like that if you hit 20 miles at an hour, you're going 20 miles an hour. So like if you're way below that, you're just flying, and then it starts to mess with your head. But conversely, like the same thing, if you're going through like those headwind portions, and you're seeing, and you want to be doing 20 miles an hour over, and you're seeing those 5-mile splits take over 15 minutes, and they're creeping up to like 17, 18. You're like, dude, now I'm going like 16, 17 miles an hour. I think it just messes with your head when conditions are not ideal. And to me, like, I know that was one of the best decisions I made from a pacing standpoint, was just like work the watts, stay low out of the gate, under 200, feel it out, and really just kind of go by like your breathing rate. And make it feel easy, because it's going to be hard, and you're going to want, your best part of what you got for today, you're going to want it to be on that last little bit of the bike leg.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things. I think, the idea of wind, especially at an early season race, especially with a lot of first timers. I mean, first of all, a lot of people don't even ride outside that much anymore. I suppose if you live in Dallas, you had more opportunity, but it's like when we talk about the riding at the old lab when it was so windy out that airfield. I mean, the more I did it, the more, it's psychological, a lot of it too, because that wind hits you and you just don't notice it quite as much. It takes the edge off it if you're used to riding out there, I think. So that certainly was probably part of it for a lot of people. It's like, shit, you're just sitting on a trainer most of the spring, and then all of a sudden the wind's 25, 30 miles an hour. It feels like it's 50. But, but like, that's an interesting point you made about working the trainer so hard and being an aero and stuff, and then when you can settle in, and you've had a lot of experience obviously, so when there's a straight headwind, you can kind of relax a little bit more in that aero, and I'm sure a lot of people were just on pins and needles the whole day out there, and that makes total sense. And the second part I was thinking about was, because swims canceled, how do you handle it, right? And my first thought is always like, yeah, right, you're going to have a little more energy, maybe, but like some of the best I've ever felt on the bike is after a 70.3 swim. I'm kind of warmed up, man, and I'm ready to kind of ride, but you're starting cold. So if you hit it too hard, too early, I think that kind of spikes a lot of shit and it makes it a little bit of a different game. So, then you just suck it up deep if you're coming back into the wind. So I don't know. Those are interesting questions, I think, always. And I'm sure that race scientists have their perspective of this. But for me as a person, I need a little time to get warmed up on the bike. I mean, there's a lot of times like, we go out riding, I'm not even, a lot of people say this to me. They're not even really warmed up for the first hour sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you go hammer it just because you got the wind? It's an interesting question. I mean, it's like you're spiking everything early and then, I don't know.
I mean, you have to warm up, I think. I mean, because one of my first thoughts, like before the wind, was like, because there were at some point, like if you look at the weather a couple of days out, I was going to be in like the 40s. And so like my big worry was like, how long is it going to take my legs to warm up after a cold swim in 40-degree bike? So I was like, I always kind of thought like, hey, you're going to have to like slow your warm up in. And so like, I just pulled up my file from the race just for like to kind of give everybody like who didn't race it. So for the first 30 miles, right? So basically like, you're done with like the tailwind completely. It took me an hour and 15 minutes. My average miles an hour were 23.8. So I was hauling. My average power was 196. And then with the 202 normalized. So very, very even. Like, and my heart rate was only 151. From there on out, my average speed was 17 miles an hour. And I pushed 10 watts higher, so 206 with a normalized power of 212 and an average heart rate of 157. And it took me an hour and a half to do just 26 miles. So like, I mean, again, like you think about like the energy that you spend, and anybody will tell you this, right? Is like the energy you try to spend. It's to me, and we've talked about this on a few podcasts, right? Is that, like when you're on hilly courses, like if you're going to use some extra juice, use it on the uphill. Like don't get out of the saddle and hammer it, but like put out more power in the uphill and then ease, because you don't ever get it back on the way down. And like the amount of effort it takes to generate more speed with more power on either tailwinds or descents is not the same ROI you get going up a hill or into a headwind. And I think a lot of people chased. I mean, honestly, I'm sure, I bet you the same way. Like, I find it significantly harder trying to maintain power with the tailwind, because obviously you're going at such a high speed. Like, I mean, I was running out of gears on some of these things, but I was like, don't force it, right? Just like you said, I just warm it up. And then the last hour and a half, if you want to, let it rip, or if you want to just kind of stay the course. And good God, was I thankful, because even like, you're thinking that you're getting hopeful. You're like, yeah, maybe the wind will turn like they say, and I'll get like a tailwind the last 10. Well, that motherfucker never came. And it was headwind the whole way. Even till like you turned into transition, it was just headwind, and people were just, I mean, I think the last 6-7 miles, I probably passed 20 people that were no longer an arrow, that were, just completely shelled because of that long, basically doing 90 minutes, 26 plus miles in crosswind or headwind with there was no break. There was no respite. It was just, you're getting smacked. There wasn't like 5 mile stretch of tailwind where you got to ease up for a bit. It was just smack you in the jaw the whole time. And, again, like just talking about pacing, because I'll talk about the opposite of what it's like to pace well here in a minute when we talk about the run. But like, again, like when you're able to push power late, and this is for like I did one ride over 2 hours leading into this. It was a 240 ride, 9 days out. That's it. All my other longest rides are at 2 hours. So it wasn't like I was putting a lot of 3.5 hour rides. But it was just like I mean, again, cycling and running, but especially like, when the conditions are going to be like this, you want to know what it's like to like feel like to push the higher power at the end. But honestly, the other thing is just to be smart about how you pace and not getting caught up in the moment. Because again, like this will be a two sides of the story when it comes to like how to not pace when we talk about my run in a minute. But it's just, I mean, in the confidence it gives you, right, to be the one passing versus being passed is just, it makes you feel like you're pedaling even stronger versus like having to sit up. So like you got to, and again, tough wind conditions, but again, like the roads were incredible. There was at least like 8 or 10, I think, like, police officers every intersection. Like which you can't say it's the same, right, about all course. Like at no time did I feel like unsafe. Like even with the winds, like never. Give me that course with those winds on an almost like completely closed course with that kind of like help on than a not closed course on a perfect day. Like and because some of the side roads even were basically blocked off the whole way. Like you had the whole road. And so again, like while it had its, challenges, like, man, if that course is next year and the water temp is 65 and there's no wind, people are going to fly. I mean, it's a fast bike course with long straightaways where you can really, really maintain speed.
All right, let's hit on to the run here.
Well, so take everything that I just told you and then flip it, which is pretty much how my run went. The run 3 loops, which I'm a fan of generally, because you can pace it, right? You know what to expect. I don't know if it's because the course had so many people on it. It was 3 loops. That's about as many spectators as I've ever seen on a run course. No lie. Okay. Very close. It was like an out, and then you did 3 laps of this like lollipop, like the circle part, and then you came your way back in. Half of it was on concrete. The other half was on kind of trail. Aid stations every mile. It was jam-packed. You were always seeing someone. Very, very, very spectator-friendly. Well, my plan coming out was just to hold. I hadn't done a lot of running with some foot issues. And I was like, you know what? Just hang tight with 750s, 755s, and just let's see how long you can hold it. That's the best plan. That's the equivalent of the bike plan that was, easy on the way out, push it on the way back, and, be really, really smart and, and do it. Well, that's not what happened. I came out of transition, and I think I was just like, I was so damn happy to be off the bike. And like just so elated to be off the bike. I mean, one was just like, hey, I got the bike done. Like, you're going to get this one. You're going to knock this one out. Like, great job. You didn't like, get blown off like the Wizard of Oz. Like you made it, nice work. Coming out of transition, grab some water. And I look down at my watch. I'm doing like 7:07. So I'm like, oh man, just slow down a little bit. This is way too hot. I saw Hayden, I saw Allie, I saw like Parker, Jamie, like but a bunch of people, and I was trying to slow down, but like my legs were just. I mean, it's funny because I actually thought about this when I was running, and then kind of laughed because it was kind of one of those moments where you like in Training Peaks where your athletes are like, yeah, the legs just wanted to go today, coach. Yeah. And like one of those, and your response to them is like, no, that's your ego. Not your legs. And I told myself, I was like, man, legs just want to go. And then I kind of chuckled because I was like, no, legs don't want to go. You want to go. You're trying to race like, 2020 Robbie. And so I did the first one. I was like, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I did the first one like 7:20, and I got one of our other coaches, Parker's, on spectating, and I thought Jake Leeling was going to be like 10 minutes up the road. We had a little duel in Dallas, going, and I thought he was going to, because he passed me at mile 1. And I thought for sure he was going to be like 10. First thing was I said, how bad is it? 10 plus? And he said 4 minutes. And I said, oh shit. And I honestly, I just said, fuck it. I'm going full send. And I did. And I threw caution to the wind. I was like way above threshold, was doing everything in like the mid sevens. And then I got to like it, which I will say, like in my weekly athlete email, I do know myself. Like I said, I had Olympic distance swim speed, Ironman bike speed, and 10K proven run speed. And that's pretty much exactly how the day turned out. But that's not very good when you're doing a 70.3 because it's a half marathon. And around like the 7, I mean, I got to the point to where I could see Jake up the road. He was only 45 seconds ahead of me. I had made up like 3 minutes and I could see him, and I'm just like moving and moving and moving. I'm like, man, I feel pretty good. Like I'm mile 8, like I'm feeling good. And then, dude, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was over. I went out so fast, so over my ability, and got so caught up in the moment. And one of the things that I didn't even like consider, and I didn't even think about, was, and this is just on me as like the athlete, it was like 80 plus. And I'm just like, hey, it's sunny, like this feels great. And dude, I got hit with the heat before I even knew I got hit with the heat. My foot and legs started shutting down. I was like, dude, you got nothing left. Yeah, I went out way too fast. So I did the opposite of what happened on the bike, and just got way caught up. But I had a complete blast. Like, I went to the well, things shut down. I stopped sweating. I saw Nick the Brick out there. At that point, honestly, like I was, I was just very. I was racing a lot that day. Like, just I was being very grateful. Like, I did a lot of the things right leading up to the race to put myself in a good position, and not a good physical position, but a really good headspace. It was just really, really happy to be out there. And so like I walked a little bit with Nick the Brick, chatted for a little bit, and then left him and went and ran again. And I went for it. I was telling the guys, on a text thread, I was like, yeah, I went for broke around mile like 7 or 8, and then ran it in. But yeah, went way over. Even like looking at my heart rate back, like I went so hard, so early that it was a completely horrible decision. And honestly, like that's what did me in, was that, because I think if I had stuck to that plan and I think it's easy in like an Ironman to like stick with that plan because you got so long, but my brain just went back to like, my olden days when I was in better run shape. And I'm like, and I told myself, I was like, fuck it. I actually told myself, I'm not sure if I believed it or not, but after like mile 2 and I was still doing like 720s and felt okay, I told myself, I was like, man, you never know, man, maybe you got it today. And so I just kept, 35 seconds above like what you reasonably should have done. And I think I could have held on to at least 10 plus at that, like a 7:55.8 pace. But yeah, I just went, I just said, fuck it, and went full send. But no, it was, insane spectator course, like tons of people everywhere. Which also I don't think like helps. Got a little bit crowded for sure, second and third loop. But there was people everywhere. And it was weird, right? Cause it was out and back. So the only part that I didn't like so much was like the trail part. Yes, it was shaded. The wind had picked up a ton. But every time you went in there, I felt like it was like every time you went to the trails, it got longer. Because like you can't see anything. It's like, oh, around those corners when I get back to the road. Maybe around this corner. But yeah, I would say it was flat to rolling. It's not any hills, but a little bit of a couple pinchers in there. But yeah, you 7.3s. You if you're gonna go to the well and you're gonna go for broke, you better have the legs and the juice to back it up. And I did not have it for that length of time. But I knew I didn't. But I said, screw it anyway. You might as well let it fly, and see what happens.
Well, yeah, like you said, sometimes you just got to see. And, we can sit here and talk about, like, all you want. You're like, I'm always about just ease in that first mile or two and just settle into an all-day pace, and then just let it happen at the end of the race. And it's if we're not super, that's one of the things I've kind of learned is I don't race a ton, so I don't get that feeling a lot. Or I don't have to like juggle that feeling in my head. And sometimes you like kind of have a flashback, and you're like, well, this reminds me of what I was, and here I am. And it's easy to kind of go test it. And, we always say run like hell. So, sometimes it can hold up, I suppose. I mean, you never know until you try, but, you are in a race, and sometimes, I mean, that's just the difference. I mean, these people that win these things or podium these things, they're kind of doing the same thing, and they're going for a little bit of broke. I know they probably have some better understanding maybe sometimes of what they have in the tank, but I know that certainly sometimes probably, one of the podium people at every age group is like, shit, let's just see what happens. And then something happens, you know what I mean? So you just never know until you try. I mean, you can always, it's easy to, I don't want to say easy, but it's certainly easier to be conservative, and I think that's one of the hardest things about this sport is just flirting with that line. We have to go there. I do it usually every year on the bike at Wisconsin. One year I tried to rein it in, was my worst race ever. So it's like, trust your body, trust your abilities. And, I think more often than not, it kind of does work out. Especially if you've been there and you've done it before. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, if you are racing, I mean, I guess it's up your agenda, what's going on in your head. But, if you want to race and kind of race and see what you are, sometimes you just got to let it rip, You
do. I mean, and again, like I had nothing to lose. And, my only goal was to get across the finish line and get it done that day. And I knew I had that. And I just figured, just fuck it. Just see what happens, see what happens.
Shock the world, man. Yes, we all have that voice in our head. Let's just shock the world today.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, dude, you never know, baby. And then I'm like, 3 miles later, I'm like, you do know, because it ain't today. But no, I mean, it was great to be out there and great course. And I got to give big shout out to my kid, Hayden, who was like the ultimate hype man. I mean, he was everybody, not just me. He was everybody's hype man. Like he was like spectating hard on course, cheering, yelling. And he asked Allie later if she told him to do this, but she didn't. He did it on his own. But I was sitting in the car with Jake before we even heard about the swim, as he and I rode together, and I got a little text because we're in big public place with thousands and thousands of people. We make him put on a little watch where we can track him and make sure if he ever got disconnected, we know where he was. And so anyway, I got a text at 6:30 from him, and it said, "I do not care if you do not win. All I care about is that you try your best." And yeah, I was like, man, I got a little choked up, and I was like, thank you. And this, I will say, this is all after I spent almost the entire dinner Saturday night explaining to him why I wasn't going to win. He's like, which, I love him to death, as he's like, so I don't understand. I was like, why aren't you going to win? I was like, dude, I'm not going to win. He's like, are you going to win your age group? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, how good are you going to do? And I was like, dude, I have no idea. I was like, I just want to get this one out of the way and, and get it done. And, but yeah, I had to explain to him the long list of reasons why I wasn't going to win. But no, it was great to see him on course and get some of his, he said a lot of things to me that I always say to him before hockey games and things like that. So it's good to see some of that come full circle. And honestly, I think it helped me disassociate a little bit from, pressure or anything. And it's cause I also I told you this, we got in Thursday, we headed down to our, I know I like to travel alone, you don't want those distractions, but sometimes I think they're good. And we got into town on Thursday, and we wanted to take him to see the Dallas Stars Oilers game. So we headed down to Dallas, parked when I thought it was like a pretty good parking lot. And then like we're watching the game, which is a great game. Like Connor McDavid got in his first NHL fight ever. We're like watching it. And then like I get a little alert on my phone that's like car alarm activated. I'm like, somebody bumped into a big deal, and then looked up and it said car doors unlocked. I'm like, fuck. So I went outside, walked, car back, driver's side windshield or window completely blown out. My car and a couple of cars. So it was just like, what? Like such an inconvenience, I was mad, but then like he and Allie came out and like he was super upset about the whole thing, but which made me like more calm and to like make sure that, because if I'm acting crazy or mad, or he's gonna be more. And so like having him there all weekend like kept me in it kept me in dad mode, which is one of my favorite places to be. And I think that kind of helped me with like I was able to like be dad and husband. And then when like I went to the race, I did the swims, I was able to be kind of like athlete Robbie again. And so it was really, I think I know for sure for me it was great to have that balance of like not sitting and just thinking about like, hey, you can do this, you could do that, or you used to could do this and you used to could do that. And and he was just like, no matter like to finish, time and place, like were irrelevant, for him. Because he even said, I'm like, man, like, 5 hours is a long time to freaking spectate. But at the weekend, he was like, yeah, dude, he was like watching, he was like being at the race was the most fun part of my weekend. And so, it was really special to have him there. And like, this is the first race he's been to that, like he's actually known knows what's going on. Yeah. Knows athletes, knows who to cheer for, knew the pros that were racing, he was invested, so yeah, it was fun to have him there. And I think it was definitely good for, I think my mental state to like still be in that mode and not disassociate too far down, like, an older zone that I've been, guilty of entering.
Yeah, sounds like it was just a nice race, and you got to please yourself, you got to do it for yourself. And I think it's so easy to get trapped in this idea of trying to impress people all the time or whatever, and getting out of our comfort zone, which is not a bad thing, but this really boils down to doing the right things for our own body and mind and soul and everything like that. And it sounds like you had a really good experience with it.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Great. Again, even with the swim, being not cut off, but just like being snatched from me. They did a great job. And again, I can see it being a pretty good staple as soon as they fix that post-race food situation. But no, again, it's always fun, right? To learn and to do things, and it's always another good reminder of like, how much you can learn, how much you learn, and how many mistakes you can make, during these races. And that's why, like, we always keep coming back, and athletes keep wanting to do these, is because there rarely ever is there a perfect race. And if you do have one, like, you don't really ever get a lot. Like, even if you watch, like, listen to the pros who get penalties or flats or don't feel good, they're like, nothing, I never like wake up and feel perfect. Right. Like you're not just going to wake up and feel amazing, and so you learn a lot and you persevere, and you got wins, you got canceled swim, you got hot runs, and it's just like, hey, what are you going to do but, triage the best you can and figure it out, and then that's just like, that's why it's so complex, even just like how small a little change of the race can do to you, right? It's like, you just remove the swim and you're like, damn, this is a little bit of a different race. Like your attitude changes, your mentality changes. And yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many moving parts with nutrition and pacing and fueling and, and heat. It's just like, it's a never ending puzzle, which for, triathletes and people who like those like kind of, challenges and problem solving. Like there's always a spot for that. And again, all our athletes did great across the finish line. Get a good early season race, out of the way and learn a lot. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't know the name of the person, but we were leaving, like, and this will be the last thing I say about the wind, but we're walking back. I swear, we're walking back. We're walking back to the car, and, Jake, big dude, muscular dude, tall dude, he's walking with his bike with a disc wheel, and, he's walking the sidewalk. We're walking the car. It's super windy. Gust of wind comes, lifts his bike completely off the ground, like almost like horizontal to the pavement. And if he hadn't been holding on with two hands, like it would have like blown out into the middle of the street. Like that's how bad. But as we're doing that, here comes this lady coming in from the bike on a road bike with like a t-shirt at like almost 2:00, like barely making the cutoff. And I just have so much respect for that kind of like tenacity and toughness and like determination, because I can't imagine how many times like I want to quit went through their mind. Right. Or all I have to do is like get off my bike. That's it. If you want the wind to stop, right, to a degree, I just have to get off my bike. That's it. And someone will come pick me up. And so I have so much respect for, like, again, like every end of the spectrum, from like the people that train so hard and so well that can produce like these amazing performances on like, on a course in a day like that. They blow my mind. Then you got, the rest of us in the middle of the pack, and then you got the back of the pack. And I just like, there's a lot of respect to go around all around. But yeah, I was like, man, like that is insanely impressive to me. Like, because the sure will it probably took is something that I'm not sure that I can relate to.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Right.
That is what it's all about. I love that stuff too. I was just thinking, out of all the races I've done, I've never had a swim canceled.
Well, you better go release your race calendar, baby, and maybe more people start racing with Mike Tarrolly.
I know, right?
It's kind of fucking jinx it too, though.
Yeah, it could be. Quick. But it's I've had some shortened, but never totally canceled. It's kind of crazy.
Which one have you done with the swimming shortened?
Louisville once, Chattanooga,
that's right,
70.3.
Not Wisconsin.
Yeah, they had sandbags up on the walkway, and the one year they figured out a way. We kind of went in
with flooding. Yeah, people worried the snakes were going to be on top of the helix.
Yeah, I don't think I raced that year, but it wasn't canceled. But my very first sprint was a race that was shortened. The Cumberland River, they just did like a 200-yard sprint swim or something. But it was like the hardest thing I ever did, because it was what do they call those things? Typhoon? No, what's whirlpool?
Typhoon.
It was a typhoon out there. But anyway, I just thought about
typhoons, baby.
Well, all right. Well, thanks for sharing all that, man. And I'm glad you had a good time. And welcome back to Kansas, where the real wind is, right?
Yeah, right. God, no kidding. It is the same here. But yeah, no, it's hopefully you guys learned a little bit. Again, good to be out there, back out there again. And yeah, again, overall, great race experience, great location. Let's all keep swimming, okay? Because maybe we'll lessen the chances of these of the swim getting canceled, so we can all do actual triathlons and not duathlons. But you know what? It is what it is. Do the best you can with the cards you're dealt, and there you go. So, but yeah, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Again, thanks for everybody that pulled me aside and said hi, and for the 97 people who told me they listen to the podcast for Mike only. I still love you guys and appreciate you guys too. But no, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man.
All right, dude. I'll see you Thursday.
Got it. All right,
See you, dude.
Bye.